the news about Israel and Palestine and Gaza has reminded me of a unique and a very bizarre experience that I had when I was in college many, many years ago on a semester-long program of study in Israel. There were about 20 of us, I think, staying at a hostel in the old city of Jerusalem. It's fairly tight quarters, and we did all things together all the time. And being young and adventurous, which I would now translate as stupid and naive, I got this itch to not be with the group and to take off on my own for a while. And one day I happened to meet an American citizen who was planning to leave the next day to go out to the countryside looking for a horse, is what she said. Looking for a horse. I don't recall her name, but I remember a few things about her. She was about our age, in her 20s. She was from Connecticut. She spoke fluent Arabic and pretty good Hebrew, and for some reason she owned a horse that she left in the care of someone up north. Deliciously vague to my imagination, and she asked me would I like to go with her to look for this horse. So I knew the professor who was our leader for this experience would likely not have given me permission to take off like that. So being totally inconsiderate, I left him a note saying I would be back on Monday. And I did admittedly feel some guilt that he was responsible for the safety of students in a foreign country that could sometimes be unsafe. But hey, it was the weekend, and we didn't really have to gather again until Monday. So I was an adult, being all of 20 years old, right? I could handle it, and so could my professor. So take off we did together, hitchhiking, all right? She had a horse somewhere in the country, but no car. So how did you think we were going to get where we were going other than hitchhike, you know? So we took off together. Wherever there was where we were going. So we hitchhiked and we walked out of Jerusalem and we started hitchhiking, and by the end of the day we had not gotten very far, but that was okay because she just happened to know, and I never did figure out the how or the why, but she happened to know of a Bedouin family who were shepherds, and they too were out there somewhere. And that was our first destination. Well, Bedouins are nomadic, and they follow the sheep, or their sheep follow them. Borders that have become so vital, especially in the Middle East, are meaningless to Bedouin people. They carry their possessions, and they follow the weather, and they follow the food. Well, she thought, or she knew somehow, that they were out there somewhere, wherever there was, and sure enough, as it was getting dark, and she told the driver who picked us up to stop. Suddenly, stop the vehicle on the side of the road. So it was dark out, and I'm looking around, and I couldn't see anything, wondering why we were going to get out there in the middle of this countryside, but she takes off walking toward the east, and not knowing what else to do, or at that point who else to follow, I followed just like one of those sheep that were out there somewhere. So the next thing I know, she's calling out to someone in Arabic, and in the distance then I heard a response. I couldn't see anyone, but I heard someone, and suddenly, after just a little bit of time, I'm inside of this tent where there is really no light at all. It was really very, very dark, and I had no clue what was there, But but she somehow managed to give me some blankets, and I fell asleep. Well, then I woke the next morning to see these dark-skinned faces of children staring up at me with these wide eyes, peering at me. And I hadn't seen them the night before because I figured they were probably buried underneath their blankets, sleeping pleasantly. And when they awoke, I'm sure they were quite surprised to see this strange white guy sleeping next to them in their tent, which was their home. Well, then, smelling food, I walked out of the tent to see this short Bedouin woman who was dressed in a worn but very beautiful dress, squatting down over a cooking fire, preparing breakfast. Her name was Juma, and she told us in Arabic that her husband, Abu Juma, was off with his sheep, but he would be arriving soon. So pretty soon we saw him walking across this barren and windswept countryside, and we all then ate breakfast, and they talked while I tried to take in what the heck was happening around me, because I was a stranger in a very strange land. But we were fed, and we were safe. And that reminded me then, it still reminds me of this 25-year-old story about the prophet Elijah from the first book of Kings. And we read in 1 Kings, Elijah went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a solitary broom tree, and he asked that he might die. "It is enough now, O Lord," he said. "Take away my life, for I am no better than my ancestors." And here's the point that's relevant. And he lay down under the broom tree and he fell asleep. And suddenly an angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." And he looked, and there at his head was a cake baked on hot stones and a jar of water. And he ate and drank. Well, that bread that was cooked on a hot stone in the wilderness for us, for me, was a welcoming gift, and it sustained us for another leg of a very strange journey. So we took off again, hitchhiking. We ended up way north, up there somewhere, looking for a horse on the Golan Heights. My suspicion is that we were either in Syria or we were very close. And then we entered a village, and my traveling companion struck up conversations with the Druze people of a village that we were directed to a house on a hillside. And again, it was night, it was very dark, and upon approach of this house, then we were immediately invited in, and we were given a meal. And there was no furniture in this home. Instead, there were thick Persian rugs on the floor, and then we reclined and we were served food in a bowl which we ate with our fingers, and this is the spoon, and this is how you eat, with your fingers like that. And when it was then time to sleep, cushions were brought out from these cubbies in the walls, and I fell asleep in a Druze home while my guide chatted with our host family about this horse that she was trying to find. By that time, I was not sure this horse actually existed, but we were fed, and once again, we were safe. There is a passage in the book of Leviticus about the hospitality that Abraham showed strangers who visited him unannounced. And the hospitality that was shown to me, or to us, I guess, as travelers together, strangers, a place to stay, refreshing and a necessary drink of water, some food, and welcome, safety while journeying. Sojourning is one of the most ancient customs in the world. And in this Semitic culture, specifically within Judaism and Islam, hospitality is not just a teaching, it's actually, and it's more than a practice, it's a command. It is a command. The command is this: when a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not do them wrong. The stranger who sojourns with you, you shall be to you as the native among you, and you shall love them as yourself. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Pretty straightforward. So then in the morning, we stuck out our thumbs again, this time heading south. Hearing gunfire in the surrounding area, a young woman from Connecticut who was looking for a horse and a gringo from South Dakota coming down from the mountains, which was often the location of fighting between Syria and Lebanon and Israel. Well, we got a ride, all right. This time it was from Israeli soldiers who were out on patrol, who basically chewed us out for being out there where we were. And what I could gather as she told them her story, this time in Hebrew, was that because of this ancient custom, these soldiers were now obligated to protect us. They took us to the shack that they were kind of staying in alongside of the highway, and we slept there that night. They gave us their beds, they fed us, we were safe again, and this time we were under the watchful eye of armed soldiers. I don't recall if they knew anything about this horse, but the next morning, I thought by that time I had probably better start heading back to Jerusalem in my group, despite not having found this horse, assuming that after 3 nights, someone back at our hostel might be concerned about where I was. So I said goodbye, and I stuck my thumb out, and I got a ride to a moshav, which is a community like a kibbutz, but it's more privately owned. It was called Nes Amim, which happened to be a Dutch community that grew roses. It happened to be the largest exporter of roses in that area. And once again, I found myself safe and well fed. And the next day then, I think I actually hopped on a bus this time, and I got back to my hostel and my classmates. Needless to say, I was not really well received by my faculty advisor. But I saw him about 30 years later, and he had since forgiven me for that. Discretion. Hospitality to strangers. There are some things in life that you do because it is the right thing to do. Whether one believes in a creator and ancient laws and customs or not, doing these things is an indication that you are living in a way that honors and protects life. And it is sad then when a society or a culture breaks down and it is no longer customary nor safe to do things that matter. It is also ironic when life is falling apart around us, we no longer do the things that bring life. But as I reflect on this, it occurs to me that it doesn't have to be this way. Since it is meaningless to talk about changing society without thinking of what we can do differently ourselves, we need to make it personal. So what would we like our world to become? We have a chance to change things for today and for the future, because the future really is ours to claim, despite all the things that seem to be working against us. I would like to believe that hospitality is one of the things that can be found not only in ancient scriptures, but it can be found within the laws of the universe, the unwritten laws of the universe that are really written all over the place in the way that we live amongst ourselves and in nature. And if we violate those laws, we do so at our own risk and at our own peril, and we will experience then social decay, and we will experience death. Peruvian liberation theologian Gustavo Gutierrez called it a preferential option for the poor. The poor and the oppressed, and the widowed and the strangers in your land. We don't do it very well, but it's a great idea. Love your neighbor as yourself. We don't do it very well, but it's a great idea. Even the writers of our own Constitution recognize certain things as being great ideas, even when they didn't necessarily always act on them. For example, all are created equal. It's a great idea. Because we don't do it well, does that mean that we shouldn't do it at all? Does that mean we shouldn't try? Does that mean we shouldn't make it a goal for our future? Moving forward, setting a goal for today that may eventually again become a way of life, if it ever was. So the end of the story is this. I never saw my traveling companion again, and I have no idea if she ever found that horse. But about a month later, our whole group was heading on a bus, kind of a mini bus. We were heading north again to explore an archaeological site with one of our teachers, and I looked out the window as we were traveling in this barren, windswept countryside, and there in the distance, I saw Abu Juma out walking with his sheep. And I shouted out in the bus, "Hey, I know that guy! I stayed with him, and I stayed with his family." Of course, no one believed me. To them, he was just a stranger. Amen.